In the time it takes to watch this video, over 2,000 cyber attacks will occur worldwide. Insane. Even crazier, there's a simple technique that could stop most of these attacks and keep your data safe. It's called multi-factor authentication, and it could be the one thing standing between you and the next big cyber attack. Let's dive into how MFA can be your digital lifesaver. Imagine you're signing into your Google account or your work or school account. You just enter your username and your password, and you're in. If that's all it takes for you to log in, you're in a precarious place. An attacker only needs to know your username and password, and they can log in as you, from anywhere in the world. And most passwords are not that hard to figure out. So how can we fix this? Enter multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is where you use two or more different factors of authentication that I'll define in a moment to prove you are who you say you are to a system, or to authenticate yourself, in other words. Enabling MFA makes your account significantly more secure. When you sign in, you can still enter your username and password, but then you'll also be prompted for more factors to confirm that it's really you. This extra step ensures that even if someone has your password, they won't be able to access your account without the additional factors of authentication. But what are these factors of authentication? There are three main categories. Authentication by knowledge, which is something you know. Authentication by ownership, which is something you have. And authentication by characteristic, which is something you are or the specific way that you do something. Let's look at some examples of each. Your password is a perfect example of the first, authentication by knowledge, as your password is something that you know, something you have memorized. Another good example of authentication by knowledge is a security question that only you know the answer to, like, what is the name of your favorite high school teacher? Authentication by ownership. Something you have could be a physical object like a YubiKey that you need to plug into your laptop to authenticate, or even an app on your phone like Google Authenticator app that generates one-time passwords or OTPs. You need to have your phone in your possession and be able to enter the current one-time password from your Google Authenticator app to authenticate yourself. Simply put, authentication by ownership means you need something in your possession to authenticate. And the final factor authentication, authentication by characteristic, includes two categories, physiological and behavioral. Physiological is something you are, and great examples are your unique biological traits, such as your fingerprints, your hand, your face geometry, your irises, and even your retinas. Behavioral characteristics look at how you uniquely do things, how you walk, your gait dynamics, how you type, or your keystroke dynamics, and even how you talk, sign your name, and so on and so forth. The most common type of multi-factor authentication is authentication by ownership, where access is granted based on something you physically possess. This approach leverages the idea that only the legitimate user would have access to a particular device or object, making it a practical and straightforward way to add an extra layer of security. One type of authentication by ownership that you might already be familiar with is the SMS-based one-time password, or OTP. This method works by sending a unique, time-sensitive code to your mobile phone via text message after you've entered your username and password. To complete the login process, you must enter the OTP, which acts as a second layer of verification. While SMS OTPs are convenient and easy to use, they're also one of the least secure forms of MFA. The process is vulnerable to several types of attacks, such as SIM swapping, where an attacker tricks your mobile carrier into transferring your phone number over to their device, or through interception by malware. Once they have control over your phone number, they can receive OTPs and gain unauthorized access to your accounts. Although SMS OTPs add an extra layer of security compared to passwords alone, they are not foolproof and should be viewed as a basic rather than a robust security measure. A recommended alternative to SMS-based OTP is to use an authenticator app such as Google Authenticator, 2FAS, or LastPass. To verify your identity, an authenticator app generates a 6 or 8-digit code called a time-based one-time password, or TOTP, that you enter along with your username and password when you log into your account. Now, let's dig deeper into the mechanics behind TOTP. TOTP is a type of password system that builds on a basic method called HOTP, or HMAC-based one-time password, which generates one-time passwords. HOTP uses a secret key. Think of it as a shared password and a counter that increases with each use to create a unique password every single time. TOTP takes the concept of generating one-time passwords a step further by using the current time instead of a counter. In HOTP, the password changes based on a counter that increases each time a new password is generated. However, in TOTP, the one-time password is linked to the current time, so it changes automatically every few seconds, typically every 30 or so. This constant updating makes it much more secure because the password is only valid for a very short period. For TOTP to work correctly, the current time must be synced between the device generating the one-time password and the server verifying it. If the time is not in sync, the generated one-time password may not match what the server expects, leading to a failed authentication. This synchronization ensures that even if someone intercepts the one-time password, it quickly becomes useless, as the time-based system guarantees that the next one-time password will be entirely different. This dynamic nature of TOTP adds an extra layer of security, making it significantly harder for attackers to gain unauthorized access. For TOTP to work securely and as intended, a few key factors are important. The secret key, or seed, must be securely transmitted to the user's device during the initial setup, and the time on both the device and the server must be synchronized. After the initial secure communication of the seed, there is no further communication needed between the server and the TOTP generator app on the user's device. This setup ensures that the generated one-time passwords remain secure and are always in sync with the current time, providing strong protection against unauthorized access. Another way you can protect your account with an additional factor is to obtain a physical security key, usually in the form of a USB device. This is also a type of authentication by ownership and is considered to be one of the safest and most reliable forms of multi-factor authentication because it doesn't rely on any external devices or networks besides the key itself. A core standard for USB security keys is called FIDO, which stands for Fast Identity Online. FIDO authentication standards are based on public key cryptography, a method of encrypting or signing data with two different keys and making one of the keys the public key, available for anyone to use. The other key is known as the private key. Data encrypted with the public key can only be decrypted with the private key. When you insert a physical security key like a USB device into your computer, a secure authentication process begins. This involves a challenge response mechanism based on public key cryptography, where the server sends a random piece of data, known as a challenge, to your security key. Your laptop then signs this challenge using its private key, which is securely stored on the device and never exposed externally. This signed challenge is sent back to the server. The server, which has your laptop's public key, verifies the signature. If the signature is valid, the server confirms that the response could only have come from your specific device, and it grants you access. Hey, quick aside, if you want to learn more about public and private key cryptography, let us know in the comments. This challenge response process ensures that even if someone intercepts the challenge, they cannot access your account without the private key stored on your security key, making the authentication process highly secure. You can check more on public key cryptography in our Diffie-Hellman key exchange explained video here. The rise of cyber threats has become a significant challenge in today's digital world. As technology advances and more personal and organizational data moves online, cybercriminals have developed more sophisticated and targeted methods to exploit vulnerabilities. Phishing attacks, ransomware, and data breaches are now incredibly commonplace, with the frequency and severity of these incidents growing year by year. In 2023 alone, there were around 2,220 cyber attacks each day, which equates to more than 800,000 cyber attacks for the year. This is why traditional security measures, such as passwords alone, are no longer sufficient. And additional security measures, such as MFA, are becoming essential to keep your data safe online. Not using multi-factor authentication leaves your accounts vulnerable to cyber attacks. Without this extra layer of security, a hacker with your password can easily access your accounts, leading to identity theft, financial loss, unauthorized access to sensitive information, and so on. Cybercriminals can lock you out. They can use your identity for malicious purposes and cause significant emotional and financial harm. In today's digital world, relying on only passwords is nearly equivalent to leaving your front door unlocked. But Setting up MFA is fairly simple and greatly enhances your online security. Start by enabling it on important and high-value accounts like your email, your web banking, and social media. You can choose between ownership-based methods like SMS OTPs, authenticator apps, or physical security keys. For even stronger protection, consider adding biometric security such as fingerprint or facial recognition to your MFA setup, if you have the hardware to support it. Combining these approaches offers robust security. Also make sure to keep your recovery options updated with backup codes or an alternate method. This ensures access even if you lose your primary device. Taking these steps will secure your accounts with a comprehensive, multi-layered system of protection. As we've explored, multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is a critical tool in the fight against cyber attacks. By requiring multiple forms of authentication, MFA drastically reduces the chances of unauthorized access to your accounts, even if a hacker manages to steal your password. So don't leave your online security to chance. Enable MFA today and take a proactive step towards securing your digital future. For more in-depth training and resources, including preparing for the certifications like the 𝗷cie𝗶hisc, visit Destination Certification and check out our main YouTube channel. Stay safe online.